The sky is falling, and realtors don't know whether they should leave the industry or if they should join a team or if they should just try to do real estate by themselves or team up with a buddy they knew from high school. Now, this is the day old question when it comes to getting your license and even established agents when the market gets tough. Sometimes people don't know if they can make it by themselves. Sometimes people want that additional support. But in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be breaking down the pros and I'm going to be breaking down the cons of joining a team and why, in my opinion, I think you shouldn't join a team. So let's get right into the video. All right, let's jump right into it. Should you join a team or should you be a solo agent? I'm going to be going through a pros and cons list of each one of them, and then you can decide whether which one is for you. So, joining a team, the first pro is obviously the fact that leads are provided. Now, I say this obviously because you would think that the team wants you to succeed. The team wants you to have the leads to succeed. The team can produce the leads for you to succeed. But more times than not, I've seen agents come to us and work with us at our company that helps them acquire business, but they're coming from a team. So why did this team not provide them leads is because most likely they don't know how to. Or let's say the market's in a slump and it's slower than they used to, and what they used to do is no longer working because what they used to do was rely on referrals, and they had so much business through referrals that they were just passing it down to their team. So this is like the first pro that I want to talk about is leads provided, because I wholeheartedly think that if you're on a team, you should be provided leads and you should be provided training on how to actually convert these leads. So if you are joining a team, I think one of the biggest pros is the fact that you get to get leads from them and you're not paying out of pocket. Traditionally, what they'll do is they'll actually take a split, and we'll talk about that later. But before we get there, the next very positive thing about having a team structure, if you're receiving it, is the mentorship and training. So this can be invaluable, especially when you're new and you don't know where to go, you don't know who to talk to. If you are joining a team, if they are providing proper mentorship and training, it's going to be a lot more than brokerages, because let's be honest, brokerages don't really provide much these days. They're all just kind of out there to take your money, and provide basic training on how to not get sued, because that's what covers their ass. And obviously, no harm, nothing bad to say about that, because that's what they need to do. But that's going to be the next pro, is your mentorship and training. Now, third one here is the support system around you. So when you're just starting in real estate, or let's say you've been a realtor for 5, 10 years and you're just in a little bit of a slump, you need that support system around you, and you need those people around you to push you to do better, push you to do the bare minimum sometimes, and push you to trend push for transactions even when the market is slowing. So for example, like at the time of recording this right now, it's a little bit of a slower market. It has been for like a year and a half, 2 years now. If you're surrounded by the news and you're surrounded by people who are speaking negatively towards the market, that's gonna inflict on your perspective of the market and the business as a whole. So having a proper support system, and sometimes teams can provide that, but sometimes teams could not provide that. That really is a make or break, and I'll talk more about it on the fifth point. But the next one here is brand credibility. So if you don't have an established brand, or if you don't have a big name that you're working behind, let's say you're not with you're not you haven't had that much experience, or you haven't done that many sales, and you're kind of insecure about the fact that you haven't done a lot of business, this brand credibility can help you, and you can say, oh yeah, you know what, my team sold 50 homes or 100 homes last year, whatever it was. But I do want to mention, like, this is truly just a limiting belief. Like, I 9 times out of 10, I haven't been asked how many homes I sold. And if you are asked that, there's a very easy way to handle that objection, because at the end of the day, that person isn't saying that you don't have the credibility. They're saying that they don't trust you. They haven't built that level of rapport with you enough to trust you yet. So let's say you're in that situation and they say, oh, like, how many homes have you sold? Or like, how busy are you? Or how many listings do you have? I love that one. How many listings do you have? I always come back with like, hey, you know what, John, like, I don't have any listings right now, but what that allows me to do is it allows me to put full effort and focus into your listing, rather than Terry down the road who's got 50 listings, you're just going to be number 51, and he's probably not even going to be able to pay attention to it. You might even have somebody else showing the property. So that that's a very easy way to handle the objection. Notice how my voice kind of went down a little bit, and that's just tonality, and that's just making sure that like you're getting that point across. Like, hey man, maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe you shouldn't go with that person that has so much credibility. Maybe me not having credibility is going to work in your benefit. So it's really about how you start to convert your sales skills. So this one is kind of like it's a pro, but it's a pro that like, do you really need that pro? I don't think so. Next is going to be collaboration and accountability. So this can be a big thing because a lot of the times people get in this industry and they think that, you know what, uh, they'll make a couple calls or they'll put a couple ads out and you're going to get super busy. Honestly, that's not the case. A lot of the times there's going to be times where you're going to just have to be consistent over months and months and months. And then after, let's say, 3, 4 months, nothing's happened. But then, boom, month five or month six, you have like 3, 4 transactions that complete because of the work you did prior to. So it's really like the compounding effect in real estate, and the compounding effect is huge. So a team can help you keep accountable, and it can help you work when you just don't feel like working. And that collaboration is also like people are just products in their environment, right? So if you have a good team and people that are pushing and they're pushing really hard, you're going to want to push really hard as well. Now, moving on to the cons. First con here is the commission split. 100%. So what's happening in teams a lot of the times is that they take 50% of your commissions, and not only on commissions that of properties of leads that they give you, but also your personal property. So let's say your friend from high school, James, sells his house, and you would have gotten that deal regardless of if you were on the team or not. A lot of the times you're going to have to pay 50% of that deal. So think about it. If you close $100,000 in sales in GCI, you're only left with 50 grand. And a lot of the times you have brokerage fees on top of that. So really, you're left with, let's say, conservatively 40, 35 grand, let's say 40 grand. And then if you take 40 grand and you have to pay taxes on that and you're not a corporation yet, you're paying like 20, 30% taxes on that. Like you're left with like 20, 30 grand. You may as well get a job at McDonald's, and you have this uncertainty of a business. So a lot of times it's not worth it. So this is the biggest downside I see of a team, because that's easily like on 100 grand commission. That's easily you're paying 50 grand. So like what could you have done with 50 grand that could have propelled your business rather than giving it away? So that's one thing to think about, and we'll talk about that when we go to the being a solo agent. But next one here is less control. So a lot of the times teams will have best practices, they'll have ways they do things, or they'll have their values already in place. And if you want to go against the status quo, especially when you're joining a team of that's been super established like 20, 30 years, and you want to pivot and you want to change because let's say the market's changing a little bit, a lot of the times you'll have less control to do that, especially at the beginning. You'll have zero seniority to be able to pitch those things and make those changes in your business. So that's one that's a bigger downside as well. Now next one here is limited independence. So kind of like less control, but you're less independent. You're kind of reliant on these people now, because they're the ones providing you the leads, they're the ones giving you all the business. Now this basically makes you more dependent. So if we think about like an elderly person, so for example, grandparents, my grandma, she never really had any independence. She didn't drive, didn't have a bank account, didn't do any of that stuff. So when she has to become dependent, and let's say she's just all alone, she's gonna have less experience and less resources to be able to handle those situations. So it really kind of puts a handicap on you. Now, next one here is potential for conflict. So, you've seen it on Selling Sunset, you've seen it on Million Dollar Listing. Teams have issues. When you're working with other human beings, there are going to be problems, there are going to be issues that arise. And truly, it's about working well with other people. Like, it's one of the hardest things to do is working. working with other people because there's so many different biases and there's so many different personalities, especially when it comes to handling big real estate commissions and handling a lot of money. When a lot of money's on the line, people change and people become different. So there's a lot of potential for conflict when you're working with other people and you're on a real estate team as well. Now, the next one here is less direct client ownership. So, a lot of the times when you're on a team, the team actually owns the client. So, even if you were to leave that team, they usually have something signed or something in place that says, hey, you know what? While you worked here, all the clients are actually clients of X team. So, if you leave, you're building this massive database that just stays with the team. So, that's a huge downside when you go to start your own business because a lot of the times people think of teams as starting points and then they want to leave and go and build their own thing. So um, that's another huge downside. Now, that's essentially the pros and cons list of joining a team. What I want to move on to now is the pros and cons list of being independent and being a solo agent. And this is where I think a lot of agents can shine, but I think they're a little bit afraid to do so because it's scary. In their opinion, it's scary. Now, biggest pro here is full commission. So you're earning 100% of your commission. Sure, there might be brokerage fees, but there's brokerage fees when you're on a team as well, anyways. But this has got to be the biggest thing. So let's say you make 100 grand, you keep 100 grand. Or let's say that exact same example. So you made 100 grand and your brokerage fee was like 10 grand, let's say, or 15 grand. So now you're at 90 or 85K, and then you pay taxes on that, which if you're making that much money, you can even start to look at corporation if you're not using the money, and then you can pay even less tax. So you can pay 20% or 30% taxes on that. So that can save you a whole lot of money and that can save you a whole lot of extra work. So instead of having to do like in the first situation, instead of having to do like 200 GCI to be able to make 80 GCI, you're going to have to do just 100, so it's way less deals. That's the biggest benefit there. Now, moving on is brand and business control. So, another large benefit of being a solo agent is brand and business control. So, you have the ability to make decisions, be more agile, and be more flexible around what your business looks like and the principles that you're instilling in your business. So, this is why a lot of smaller brands will actually beat out larger brands in the short term and make changes faster because there's less people that it has to go through and there's less headache to get things approved and move around. So you get a massive benefit by being able to make those decisions yourself. Like, now, next thing here is flexibility. Like I said, in kind of business and brand control, you have that flexibility. You're able to make decisions and you're able to do things your way, which is most likely why you got into real estate. Another big benefit is no internal politics. So unless you're fighting with yourself, which is totally normal, you can do that. But you're not really fighting with anybody else. The decisions and the life you're living out today is solely based on the decisions that you made yesterday and weeks prior to. So there's nobody really to fight with, nobody to fight with about money, nobody to fight with about like, hey, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. You're solely just dependent on yourself, and where you land in your business is a direct correlation of what you did or didn't do. So this, I kind of like having that responsibility. I like having that direct, I guess, accountability with myself. So I think of this as a massive positive. And then long-term business growth finally. So last pro here is if you're planning on being in business for a long time, being a solo agent gives you the massive advantage of the fact that you're going to be owning your business. These are your clients. You take them wherever you go. If you switch brokerages, you take the business with you. If you move, let's say you want to expand into different countries or different provinces, you can move those clients to wherever you want because you own that business. So, in terms of long term business growth, definitely you have more control when you are not on a team. And this actually should say solo agent. So, now moving on to the cons. First one here is there's no built-in support a lot of the times. Like what you're relying on is your brokerage. And a lot of the times, like I said, brokerages aren't going to be providing you the most amount of value and support. It's really who you surround yourself with. That being said, there's a lot of people that you can surround yourself with online, even like different groups or getting coaching online. Like, I see that as way more advantageous than having like your limited brokerage because they're only looking at that one specific area, right? So moving on is generating your own leads. Now, I put this as a con because most people will think it's hard to generate leads or it's hard to figure out how to generate leads. But in reality, guys, like this is one skill set. So you think it's hard because you haven't acquired the skill of generating leads yet. Now, once you acquire that skill, then generating leads is going to be super easy. And that skill is something that you can use throughout the life of your career as a real estate agent. So I put this as a con, but in my opinion, would this skill is and this is a question you need to ask yourself is would this skill not be worth figuring out so that you can have long-term success in your business? Now, it's not like rocket science. It's not like you have to figure out some geometric freaking calculations. It's generating leads. How is this done? There's two ways you can figure out how to do this. First way is trial and error, which takes a lot of time and a lot of money. Or the second way is to pay your ignorance debt. Now, ignorance debt is basically paying for education because you're ignorant, you don't know what you don't know. And if you can pay somebody to learn these things, or you can pay somebody to basically um, pay for that learning curve, then you're going to be way further ahead. So I put this as a con because I think people will think that it's hard to generate leads, but it's really, you can switch it to a pro once you learn how to do this. Because if you see it as a pro, then like the pro of generating your own leads is the fact that you can control how much money you want to spend. And once you dial in your lead generation process and you know, like, okay, if I put $1 in and I get $5 out of this machine, then you can scale that to the moon. You basically have a money printing machine. So that's essentially a little bit on generating your leads. Now, next thing here is it's a little bit of a slower start. So I would say that a con is that it takes a little bit longer to get going and get in the motion of things when you're a solo agent. And that's solely because you don't know what to do and you don't know how to structure your day. So if you can figure out a proper structure to your day, this is going to give you a massive benefit and help you decrease the time that it's slow for you to start, so you can actually start a little bit quicker and go a little bit faster. Now, next one here is higher expenses. Now, I will say expenses you can consider like giving up half of your commission because that's an expense too, right? So you need to really think about it and take it back and be like, okay, is it really an expense or is it just a cost of doing business, which is generating leads? So you will have higher expenses, but you need to weigh out like how much higher are the expenses, right? Like if you're generating deals at a $3,000 CPA, so cost per acquisition. Let's say that means it costs you $3,000 to acquire a client that actually buys or sells a house, and you make $12,000. That's better than you spending $6,000 and you make $12,000. You're still going to have to do the work of prospecting, but in the $6,000 case, I said 6,000 because you're giving 50% of your commissions away, and in the $3,000 route, you're just generating the leads yourself. So you're saving half of the amount of expenses by doing it yourself and learning that skill so you can have more clients. And then you also have the flexibility of scaling it up, scaling it down, going on vacation when you want, things like that. So higher expenses, but again, you need to kind of see what is truly the higher expense. Now, last one here is the loneliness and lack of accountability. So I will say that real estate is a lonely business, and if you don't have accountability or you don't have a good spouse or you don't have a good business partner or whoever you're working with, it can truly just take it out of you. Like the business is one that is pretty much done alone. You're speaking to clients all day, you're prospecting all day, you're doing paperwork all day. So a huge con is loneliness and lack of accountability. But again, you can join groups, you can join mentorships, you can join coaching programs, consulting programs that give you this community and that give you this support. So, minor plug here, but what we do at Create Quality Leads is we actually handle all of the negative cons of being a real estate agent by yourself. And you can basically scale your business to the moon. You get the community support, one on one support, accountability. It's not a slower start. You have very minimal cost because you could generate leads yourself, free and paid. We show clients how to do that. But what I'm saying is I want you to understand that a team isn't the end all be all, and it might not be the solution to your problem, and you need to solve your business in the order of constraint. So a lot of the times the biggest constraint is just generating your own leads, and how do you find leads? And then after that, the next constraint will be, after you figure out how to generate your own leads, the next constraint will be the sales this the sales process and how to actually convert the leads. And then the next will be the fulfillment. So marketing, sales, fulfillment, you probably heard me say it, but that's the order that you actually want to solve problems. It's MSF. And we want to make sure we're not trying to figure out fulfillment before we even have any people coming in. We want to figure out, we don't want to make sure we're figuring out the sales process when we don't have anybody to talk to. So it's pretty in depth of what you need to do. But with that, that's the pros and cons of being a solo agent versus being an agent on a team. If this helped, guys, hit the subscribe button. I'm always posting content like this, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.